Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Socially Radical Guitarist. Song you heard just now was 99 from the artist Black Ant. And actually, Black Ant is here with us today to discuss. We flirted with it a little bit with Polygeny, and now we're going to get really into that alternative electronic music. But first, we're going to be doing the disclaimer. Anything that I say or anything that my guests say on the show are the respective opinions of the host and the guests. They have nothing to do with Radio Waterloo, any of its subsidiaries, or any of its affiliates. So, no, you can't sue public radio over this program. And while the African and Caribbean Inclusion Center is sponsoring this show, the respective opinions of the host and the guests are the opinions of the host and the guest only. They have nothing to do with the African and Caribbean Inclusion Center either. So don't sue the nonprofit either. Support the nonprofit, especially consider supporting their drive for full inclusion, full integration, and full equality. Um, and if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the contact page of the Socially Radical Guitarist website. And if you value this show, if you want to hear the truth, if you're tired of being sanitized with mainstream news that just lies to you on a regular basis and you want to hear the truth, support this show because the show is uh, the show of the people and it'll only be brought up by the people. So please support this show by going to the contact page and either clicking the Bitcoin donate button or the PayPal donate button. Here or here, the ones highlighted in white. All right. So Black Ant is here. He's going to talk about the track that just played, the track that's going to play. Um, but I'm just gonna ask him a simple question. Black Ant, where are you? Where did you grow up? And uh, yeah, so where do you live and where did you grow up? What's your upbringing? Just
All right.
tell us where you
Um,
are.
all right. So I was actually born in New York, and then after the first 2 years, we moved to South Florida, around Miami and stuff like that. And then somewhere close to when I'm 10 years old, we moved to Hollywood, Florida, which is just about 30 minutes north of Miami. And that's where I really do the real growing and development and stuff like that, because I don't leave until I'm in my early 20s, right? And it's down there once I start making music. Right now, it's a long story, but I'm in Pittsburgh and I'm getting the hell out pretty damn soon. Yeah, it's either gonna be it's looking like I'm moving to California after this crap. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, that's kind of crazy because when I looked at your profile, you had a Haiti flag. You were flying the
Oh,
Haiti
okay,
flag. Is that where
yeah.
your
My family, yeah. My family, I'm first generation American. And then being first generation, you're still mostly Haitian, right? So I always kind of I always kind of just identify myself Haitian first, that's just how it is at home, family. My first words were in Creole, so you know what I'm saying. So I had to kind of become American. Now I finally think in English. You know what I'm trying to say. So that type of stuff, yeah.
well, we have a radical political perspective on whether an African can become an American. But
Yeah, right.
that is another topic for another time. Um, now, how did you start playing music?
Man, okay, so I can't even really remember it, but we always had my dad one day, it had to have been my dad. We had a keyboard or whatever, and I remember just kind of playing with it 4 or 5 years old. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I like that when I do something, I get something back. So then a few years later, he buys me a guitar, and I'm 8 years old. Still same thing. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know there's oh, when I do this, I like that. When I do that afterwards, I don't really like it. So you're getting that, that feedback. And then so I'm 8 years old, and finally about 12, 11 years old, I'm in the band at school. now this is when it gets a little bit serious. So I play the trumpet. I thought it was gonna be Miles Davis, whatever, not really. But it gives me the background to learn how to read notes and stuff like that. And I start getting an idea because I'm like, oh, now I know I can read it. Like I have more autonomy in that sense. And then the following year, I drop out of band because I was like, I got tired of carrying the trumpet and stuff like that. And I was the only kid in my class in band. So there was the whole like that whole like social stigma in a way, uh, in that sense. And so then after that year, I started making beats. I had like a homeboy, and we were gonna rap together. We're gonna be rappers, whatever. And he's just like chilling one day. He's like, "Bro, you gotta make beats because we're gonna get sued. We can't rap on other people's beats." We're like 13, 14 years old, like like who the hell's gonna really know? But that's it. And then I started making beats, and I just didn't stop.
That's great. That's great. Now, so you made beats. Just thought about making beats. Was there any particular influence that made you want to make short alternative hip hop beats like that, or?
Oh,
Um,
so many. And around the time, this is like, so I'm 30 years old right now. When I started like 13, 14, it was like 2004, 2005. So there's a lot of good stuff coming out in terms of like, you have Just Blaze, you got Timbaland, you got Pharrell, Neptunes, and then even before that, my first real introduction to hip hop, my pops, he had like the Columbia Music House subscription. So he didn't know what the hell he was getting. My dad's from Haiti, whatever. He just like, oh, there's a lot of music, and then I'm gonna be tapped into the culture. So he's just getting all types of stuff. So he eventually gets like that first ODB record, the Return to the 36, and that's like my first introduction to hip hop. And that first intro, there's just like it's RZA on the beats, and like it's just very like creepy and dark, but it's still like really cool and hard, right? Um, and I remember it gave me some anxiety initially when I was a kid. Like I remember like it scared the shit out of me, like because the sound was the sounds that you kind of hear in horror movies in a way. And I also remember like, and then I right off the bat, like, ODB starts cursing like a motherfucker. Hey, can I curse on here? My bad.
no problem. No problem.
Okay. So
We did the disclaimer for a reason. Don't
okay,
worry.
I'll keep it down. So he starts cursing, and my mom's rushing out like, yo, like you can't let him hear that because I'm 4 years old. But that's like I'm like, oh, okay. So here's this thing. It's kind of cool, but it's scary, and my mom is like not with it. So it's like crazy. I'm now more interested. So then that sound was always like in my mind in a way. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, RZA's like that first like foundation for me in terms of like what I kind of wanted to do. And then everything else after that. I mean, like if you're into animated Samurai Champloo, all those guys were making really good beats, all four of them, like from those like different like soundtracks, um, you know, just like that, yeah. And then playing video games as well. You're hearing all those little noises and whatever, all the background sounds and all the different things that are going on. So you just start kind of like, it's like a centrifuge. All these different ideas and inspirations, they keep spinning, 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 spinning. And then when you hit that stop, you get this new thing. You get this new structure, It's just like this aggregate structure. And that's what I became.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I'm glad that you were thinking about new jabs because that is the first thing I thought of when I heard your music.
Tight.
So yeah,
Tight.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So now I know for sure, but I always suspected, you might have listened to it a little bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so is there a story behind the song 99, like the one that just played?
I'm not exactly sure why I called it 99. I think the way it sounded, so it kind of but like that guitar sample is really me. So that same buddy that got me into making beats, we also had a noise band. We called it Crack Hotel. And I actually sampled myself playing guitar in that, and then just moved it around some. And then I was like, oh, this loops. This sounds crazy, and just sounds wild. Like that one sounds real creepy. Like it's kind of like what I heard, what I felt when I listened to like ODB, like 4 years old. It's just like this weird ass, like, what is that? And so yeah, that's like that came from me playing like guitar. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that you wrote that with the guitar. It'd be hard to believe for anybody just listening, but um, if like if you're like if you have that musical background, you can kind of hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you know, as guests, we always give two tracks. Musical guests always get two tracks. And I was just wondering about, you know, the song that's coming up next, um, Arch Pigeon Coop. I actually couldn't find this one on Spotify. Is this one
Yes,
just a new single?
it's old. A lot of my, funny enough, bro, a lot of my music is old as hell. Like I'm kind of telling the story backwards. So like the 99, that was like I made that in 2010, and then the Pigeon Coop, that's actually from 2009. And that again is me playing guitar, and then I cut a sample. Basically, like a lot of them, like I'll just like, once again, my dad bought like my first like Fender Strat. He's actually a big like contributor to like the Black Ant Enterprises, and he doesn't realize it. But so yeah, I just kind of, I just jam out whatever, and then like you find a spot that sounds really good, and you keep looping it, and then you know what, let me toss some drums on that too. So the Pigeon Coop, like there's like a Jay Dilla beat, I believe, called like Smokey in the Coop, Smokey in the Pigeon Coop, something like that. So that's where that really kind of came from. And but that beat itself, like I usually just give it to friends to rap over. Just yesterday, I think I shared one, Jamon Creek. He's like the fifth rapper in like 12 years or 13 years to get on that. So like, like the funky drummer drum loop, you know.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I'm trying to turn that beat into that. Just get like, like bunch of different rappers, like just to like, oh yeah, that's the history. So then that beat itself has a life of its
Uh,
own, right? But
yeah, yeah.
no, it's not on Spotify yet. And if it ever does go into streaming, like I think I might, like I would like to have enough rappers on it where I can just make it like, okay, this is the one track, but it's like 10 different rappers, right? Each song or whatever. Like kind of like in reggae too, like they'll have that rhythm that you always hear, like, and mad different people have been on the same, either like it sounds different, it's like lo-fi, normal fi, whatever, but it's that same beat and everyone got on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like with electronic music, it's kind of like a badge to get remixes, to get features. So so it's
Mm-hmm.
always really important for the music to be used by others. It requires other
Mm-hmm.
people to share it for it to really feel
Right.
promoted. And that's kind of the
And like
interesting
it
and beautiful thing about electronic music.
and then because like the music that we like, the hip hop, like coming in from hip hop, like I like hip hop a lot for the fact that I feel like out of any genre, it's probably the most dialectical because of the fact that we have to sample. So everything is coming from something, right? So and so now for my music to be getting passed around the same way that samples got passed around, the funky drummers got passed around and incorporated into drum and bass, incorporated into this, incorporated into jungle, da da da, hip hop. Like all that came from something, right? So then it just back to the centrifuge idea, like, just these things that are all together spinning around each other, bumping into each other, like nothing is in a vacuum, right? So that's how I feel about like hip hop at the end of the day.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. Have you ever DJ'd, performed live, uh, in your, I think 18-year career? That's crazy. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I don't even believe it sometimes. I'm like, dude, like the idea of that, like I just like, okay, so I'm 30, but like I've been doing it for like multiple decades while like, still like, young is like crazy to me too. But playing out, yeah, man. I've honestly, my first show was in 2009. I was 17. Trash. Like, and it's good because like it's your first show. It should be the worst show of your life, realistically. But it kind of taught me like, okay, this is what I don't like, this is what I don't need to do, right? This is what I'll never do. So that was good. Dude, low key, it was so bad. Like there's people on you, like there's YouTube comments where like, yo, that shit sucks. so so then like I took some time off, and like at that time all I was playing with really, like I just played with my laptop, and I just played, like I went in, I opened Fruity Loops, and then I had like Foobar. So I was gonna try to like segue in between, like I am DJing, but I couldn't get it right. So then later on I finally get an MPC 1000, and then what I started then, like 2013 is the second show, and I play the MPC, and then I play beats off of the laptop as well, so then it sounds like I'm DJing. And then because as well on the MPC you can sequence things, and you can mute and unmute tracks. So then it just adds more to the atmosphere. And then I got an SP404 with that, like it's just like gunshots, laser beams, explosions, things that to make it seem like a DJ party. Like when you're listening to the Funk Flex mixtapes, you're listening to the DJ Clue mixtapes, and they just be screaming and going crazy, right? Like that's that hype, that's what I want. I want that feeling like when people are like, yeah, I'm at an event. So that's another thing too. Like now, like as I'm getting older, I'm not really making music for notes, melodies, or sounds. I'm really making it for events, like not like party events, but I want it to sound like an event. I want it to sound like something's happening. So then like, after so it almost becomes like I don't know, like it takes you somewhere and it's like almost more meditative in that way. Like you can like, exit from reality, a small departure, because it sounds like you're in another world in a way, and then you come back. So that's really the sound that's like how it is in live shows. As far as like hardcore DJing, like real, and what I think real DJing, like you're playing other people's musics and things like that, bars, clubs, and stuff like that. Not so much, man. Funny enough, like last week or so, like when I was in LA, I was at a party, and that was the first time I got on like the little DJ joints with the flash drives and stuff. It was like the first time I practiced virtual DJ on the computer, but that was like the first time I was doing the thing. So that in itself, that's a whole nother that's another like growth and progress I got, and I'm looking forward to that too, just to keep me kind of young.
Okay. That's kind of crazy. A lot of your tracks, just like what you were saying at the beginning, how you were inspired by that kind of music being used as a soundtrack. Actually, your music could be used as soundtracks. Have you looked into that? Has somebody approached you for something like that? Or
I'm glad you asked. I did one time. I was like, I got me and my boy, we got commissioned to do a score for a documentary. It's called Control, and the director Chris Bravo. We basically the story is it's about a guy, like it's about a kid. Well, he was like maybe 18, 17, and he gets wrongly accused for a crime. And then you watch the whole thing, the way he gets ping ponged around with the whole justice system and all of that. And it felt good. It felt good to kind of like contribute my music to something that was, like a serious situation. And it's on YouTube, and you could probably see it on Vimeo as well. It's called Control. And that's like my first one and only real like true like commission stuff. Also too, like there was this one site called Free Music Archive. I linked up with them back in 2010. I gave them just 2 albums, and because of like the Creative Commons and stuff like that, people are always just taking it and making videos. There was even like I forget where in South Africa, which country it was, but there was like they aired they made a PSA with it, like to use condoms and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's cool to see, like, yeah, like like just as long as this thing can kind of take a life of its own, provide some message that kind of improves like society, your environment, etc. Like I'm pretty cool with that. So I'm always open for just combining like visual and sound.
that's great. It's great that your music is now worldwide. It's worldwide, and the continent has recognized you. My
Yeah,
brother, he went to the continent to play, and once the continent recognizes you, you get amazing amount of love. Like he played in Tanzania, and it was a huge show. So
that's lovely. Yeah,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
And yeah, that's another goal of mine too. Like I wanna, I'm, of course, Caribbean background, and I'm heavy into it. My older uncle, whatever. I'm like, how you have like it's like your dad's cousin, but he's your uncle, whatever. So he was actually in a band called Ebo Combo. He played the drums for that band, and so he played in a compa band, and that's I grew up around that, and that's basically like it's like Haitian jazz and funk at the same time with a lot of percussion stuff too. And the other thing I want to kind of do, I want to get this like hip hop experimental stuff to the Caribbean as well. Like because like I think like a child growing up in Haiti, like oh yeah, he just knows compa, and maybe the popular American stuff as well, because sometimes you kind of hear a little like compa fusion with like popular American stuff. But just be like, yeah, like yo, you can also do this too. Like it doesn't have to be so like only this type of sound. Because that was another thing, like growing up, telling my family I'm making music, they think I'm gonna be doing Mozart, they think I'm gonna be playing Miles Davis, but then I'm doing like these weird ass beats, and they're just like, this isn't music. No, it's nothing you've heard before, but everything's music, bro. You know what I mean? So expand that. Like, I want to see more. Like, we should be experimenting more. We should be kind of just pushing it. Like, I really think we should, like, at the end of the day, people should be like, what the hell is a genre? Like, I really feel like it should be at that level. Like, no, I just like listening to sounds. Like, I like listening to, like, either, major keys, major chords. Like, I like optimistic sounds or I like cryptic sounds. So, because then that kind of opens it up, because then it can be hip hop or it can be rock, it can be jazz, because everyone has different tones and different emotions. So that we don't have this, we don't have so much of this, like, I guess somewhat dogma to it. Like, I think sometimes people are like, oh, I don't like country, or I don't like this, I don't listen to that. But all these sounds, bro, like, that's really it. It just sounds to me.
Integrating music is actually what I argue is part of Western proletarian culture. We take influences from around the world and put them together to make something new.
Mm-hmm.
So, so
Absolutely.
you're definitely
Absolutely.
following the spirit of that.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel your career is going overall, in your
I've
18
always
year
told
career?
myself, I'm as big as I am, you know, because it's easy. Like, oh, okay, why don't I have 1,000 followers? Why don't I have 15K? Why am I not on the cover of this magazine? How come this festival didn't hit me up? And yeah, you can always, and then that's gonna just destroy what you do. Then it's gonna take away, and it's also gonna take away because there's some genuine connections here. It's gonna take away from that. Like, it got to a point anytime I traveled was because I knew someone who liked my music, and they're like, oh yeah, you can crash or whatever, or do you want to come play or whatever. Like, I was always like traveling under my, like, under Black Ant, like under the music alias. So like it gave me this like double life. And I was like, yeah, cool, man, this is awesome. So that by saying, oh well, I don't have 1 million followers and this and that, I'm completely like just taking away from all my history. I'm trying to say, like, I'm like, belittling it. So I feel like my career is where I am. If I'm feeling good, if I'm feeling great, yeah, of course. Like, and then it just keeps going. You just gotta stay consistent. You just gotta keep doing it. I'm blessed that, like, still right now, like, I can still release music that I made when I was like 16, 17 years old. And people are like, yo, this is crazy. Like, so it's like it's still going, it's still moving. So yeah.
That's great. So, um, before Pigeon Coop comes out next, is there one last final message that you want to give to our Canadian audience, North American audience? Because it turns out, yeah, I am getting a few listeners from America too. So,
Nice.
yeah,
Man, like, whatever you want to do, just do it. Like, if you got a good feeling that you can't shake off, straight up, it's probably a good thing. Like, we everything that we do is to survive, right? Like, the way our body, the muscles, our brain, blood, all that is so we can survive. So why are you're not gonna set yourself up for failure? You know what I'm trying to say? So if you got a feeling like, oh, I think I'll be good at making beats, because that's all it really was too. Like, when my friend said, yeah, maybe you should make beats, I was like, low key, I think I could, like, I really feel like I have a good feeling about it. Like, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I feel it. So let's go for it. Chances are, like, yeah, that's low key on some crazy whatever. That could be the future you coming back and telling you, yeah, bro, like, you got to be over there. Like, let's get over there. So just go for it. And especially with art, music, you got to crack that first egg. Like, don't worry about that first beat. Don't worry about that first verse being garbage. It's low key. Make it the worst. Make it the worst, because that means everything else is better. You know what I'm saying? So then just keep on fine tuning. That's all it really is. Just adding 1 more % to something, and then you'll eventually get to the 100.
that's great. That's great. That's a great message for everybody. So, this was Black Ant. Um, and the song coming up next is going to be from Black Ant as well. It's called Pigeon Coop. So, listen to that during the intermission, and we'll be right back.